Episode 3. Welcome back to the Be Her podcast, and thank you so much for clicking on to the third episode. There is something in this for you and for me, and here we are at magic number 3. So you've probably picked up already that this podcast is about raw, unfiltered, get to the heart and the bone of it stories, because I really do believe that it is stories that are going to change our world, because I've seen it. When I'm supporting a woman in changing her story, in changing the story she's either telling herself or how she's speaking about herself out in the world, things change. Ripple effects happen. And I also believe that we need more of her story. We need more stories where the women are the heroines. And I want to listen to those stories. I want to tell those stories. I want to be inviting more women I know to, without any edit at all, to say what you want to say. That was a massive breakthrough for me when I was moving towards, when I say moving towards, it was like there were so many chapters that I moved through in terms of my identity and who I understood who I was and what stories I was telling myself and the world as I was moving towards the Be Her collective. And one of the big chapters was when I just kept reminding myself to say what you want to say. Because I did notice that I was speaking through like a self-imposed editing program. Not in all spaces. Like when I was inside the Be Her community, I could speak freely. But if I was anywhere where I wasn't sure if I was going to be accepted or understood, liked, valued, then I'd put this like editing program. Like while I'm speaking, I'm kind of like seeing it's almost like a filter over my mouth, even though there wasn't actually one there. But if you're picking up what I'm putting down, I think that we do this a lot. And part of the reason that we do this is because as humans, because of how we're wired, not only energetically, but literally in your nervous system and in your way that you create safety for yourself, we seek connection over authenticity. So if there's a choice for us, whether it's choose authenticity or choose connection, we will choose connection because it's so important to us as amazingly complex humans, which is why so many people feel like as they grow up, they need to rediscover who they are. Or I've heard so many women say, I feel like I haven't been myself for years. And that's a part of the conditioning of the world. And, like we've already shared, the old narrative, that old dominant narrative, which is crumbling, really did cast women in roles that were not our authentic selves. I'm not saying everyone's been inauthentic, not at all, but really, for the most part, for so many generations now, women have been the supporting role, the victim, or the sidekick. And sometimes we choose that because that feels like we can stay connected, that feels the safe place. And sometimes it's like that's the default position that women are put in. But we're the weavers and the storytellers of the new narrative. And in the new narrative, we're the heroines. We're the lead character. So in this episode, I'm going to share with you a story about a time when I realized I had placed myself in supporting role, and I was also in victim at the same time, and there was a side dish of sidekick. It was all going on. It was when I went to war. I had an internal fight with the island of Tobago. So I'm going to share that story and how I shifted from that mix of not working out so well for Deborah into heroine status here in my island home of Tobago. But I just want to remind you all, everyone who's here with me at episode 3, no matter how you feel right now or what stories are currently coming out of your mouth, you are an intuitive heroine, even if you only feel it like in your little toe. Because we are naturally the intuitive heroine. We're naturally intuitive, and our birthright, we're born as the main character of our story. And you're going to hear me say that again and again, because I do also find that there's a desire for women to feel connected to their intuition, but that can feel complicated. Then there's also this desire of just like, well, that sounds great, Deb. I want to be the heroine. But how do I get there? Or why am I not there right now? How did I end up in this supporting role? Or the sidekick? Or the victim? So I completely get it. We're together on a journey, and story by story, it is going to start to weave for you. So wherever you are, it's exactly where you are today, in this moment. It's you, me, in episode 3. And stay with self and your own story, because it's all there for you, and you can take step by step, and you're going to move from that little toe to the whole foot, to the whole leg, to both legs, and you're standing as the intuitive heroine. There's no rush, there's no force, but it's all happening. And it's not only going to be stories with me. I've got future episodes with some amazing women who have worked through finding their way to their mission and what they're creating in the world, and into heroine status, and to living a life that's intuitively guided. So there's so much inspiration coming. But now I'm going to tell you about me and my fight with Tobago. And as I'm listening, feel free to giggle along with me with how ridiculous some of this is. And also see again for yourself. Remember, we're running that other track for ourselves. Where in my life have I demoted myself? Because as soon as we bring awareness, that's the first step of shifting that status. If we're unaware and la 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 about it, nothing's going to change. So, Deborah has a massive fight with the island of Tobago. When I officially moved to Tobago in July 2021, it was still deep COVID here on the island. Most things were still closed. The beaches were closed. There was a 9 p.m. curfew. Everyone had to be off the streets. It was deep COVID for the first few months. It wasn't until the Christmas New Year that things started to open up. But even then, they opened up cautiously. So there was more than 6 months where I really could be cocooned with me and my husband, Smokey. And everyone was doing that. We all did that for a couple of years, sheltering in place. So that was my beginning of my time here on the island. And I'd been coming to Tobago for years at this point, and I felt like I knew Tobago. But I knew Tobago as somebody who flies in, flies out. I still had my Brooklyn apartment. But this move in 2021 was me moving here so that this would be my home. And it really moved things for me. The thing that shocked me the most is how small I felt. I mean, this is a small island. It's not crowded with a lot of people. There's a lot of space and grace. But I felt so small because I felt like the other. I'm not born here. I'm not in the generations and the family line that you can literally see here. There's so many cousins of Smokies that I've met. There's places that we go on the island and then suddenly there's a family member or someone he went to school with. There's deep connection here. And I was the other. And I took that into my breath. I shortened my breath. I made myself smaller. I didn't know where I fit. And so I snuggled into the shadow of Smokey because that felt safe. And then this happened for months. Happened for months and months. I would follow Smokey around. Where are you going, babe? Oh, you're going down to the jetty to talk to the fishermen? Okay, I'll meet you there. I didn't connect with anyone there. I'm not a fisherman. I don't need to be where they're pulling in the fish from the day and cutting it up. But by default, I ended up there because I didn't feel like I had anywhere else to go. And then when I would start to feel like I'm going to find my way on the island, I'd start to go to the beach on my own or try to find maybe where there was a yoga class. Anytime that I would try, I just found myself feeling really lonely and also nervous that someone was just about to point me out as the other. And all of this is happening, but it's not happening on this conscious level. This went on for months upon months upon months. Until one day, that uncomfortable feeling that I'd just been swallowing and managing the short breath of, it started to agitate from the inside. And I decided Tobago, the island, was not giving me what I wanted. Everyone was telling me, how lucky are you that you live in paradise? And I was like, well, it's actually not because... And I went into full victim mode. Tobago, the island, was not the home I was dreaming of. It didn't have the community that I was seeking. There wasn't connection here for me. And I went into a big mental fight with the island. I would literally walk the beach and be talking to the island and saying, why did you disappoint me like this? You were supposed to be my dream home. And look how you're making me feel. I mean, it's ridiculous to even say out loud. So I was victim to the island of Tobago, and I was in supporting role, sometimes sidekick, with my husband Smokey. Now, to be noted at this point in the story, Tobago, the island, always welcomed me. The actual earth here, like I'm talking about feet on the ground, feel the earth underneath the soles of your feet. I have felt a connection to the earth here from the very first time I came in 2018. Tobago as an island has only ever welcomed me. And Smokey, he was just being Smokey. He was just doing his thing. He was running his rhythm. And he would try and invite me to maybe try this, babe, or maybe go there. But my response was always, but you don't understand what it's like to be me. That's confronting. That makes me feel nervous. So the island and my husband never put me in victim and supporting role. I did. And I did for months and months and months. And I got more and more upset about it. I would pick fights with my husband, and I would sit at the beach and affirm how lonely I was. It was really, really sad state of affairs. And then as I started to work on what this meant for me, when I started to really own my story, because all of this work in the Be Her Collective with choosing heroine status, I have done this many times in my life. I've chosen to really back myself. But before launching the Be Her Collective is when it came back into view again. And I was really interested in how women around the world are put into supporting role, into victim, into sidekick. And I realized I had done that to myself. Like I'd gone the trifecta. I was the absolute trifecta. I was definitely Smokey's sidekick. I was definitely in his shadow, in his supporting role. And absolutely, I was a victim to the island. Until I started to work on my story and I realized I could change status. And so I did. This is not like Deborah journals one day and then the next day she's the heroine. This is now the next few months in the story where I started to ask myself, what would the heroine do? I started to say to my husband, actually, I don't want to go to the jetty because I'm not really interested in fish or fishermen. Have a great time. I'm going to stay here and work on my writing. Or I'm going to go for a sunset walk on the beach and I'll come home and I'll check you later. I just started to make choices that were good for me. I just immediately surrendered to the island and said, Tobago, I'm so sorry for being so mean to you for so long. Thank you for continuing to turn up. And of course, the island was like, well, let's hug it out. But I had to keep reinforcing that I get to make choices that are good for me. I'm choosing my story here on the island. And one of the most vulnerable and literally made me nervous chapters of the story was when I decided I wanted to connect to some women on the island who wanted to talk about the things I wanted to talk about. And I'd never thought when I was in my early 50s that I would feel like a teenager again, turning up at a new school, hoping I would make friends. But I did it. I turned up for the rainforest walk. I went to the new yoga class. I sent the WhatsApp message to the woman I'd met like weeks before who seemed interesting and asked if she wanted to go for lunch. And I started to make connections. And again, it wasn't immediate, but after time, some of those connections started to come back to me. And to be noted here, as I am building heroine status from the inside out, which is how we need to do it, it is not a one-hit wonder. You build the muscle and the integrity and the alignment of it, because we kind of got to get rid of all of the knots of either supporting role, victim, or sidekick. And this isn't a healing journey. It's a rewiring and rewriting your story journey. It's about the choices that you make, which is why I love the question, what would the heroine do? Because you are the heroine. If you're leading your story forward, what would you do next? Even though you're scared, send that WhatsApp message to that woman who was interesting to you and invite her to lunch. When I chose heroine status, and I kept choosing that for myself, nobody else needed to change what they were doing. My husband didn't have to suddenly become some other role so I could be the heroine. Because it's not about there being one spotlight for one person. We're all running the narrative of our own stories. And here's the beautiful benefit. When I stepped into heroine status, it meant that my husband could fully take up space in his hero. And all of those little niggly things that we used to fight about, they just evaporated because they all came out of my anxiety and my resentment of being in a role that didn't feel good for me. So know this for yourself. If you're somebody who wants to begin to ask yourself, what would the heroine do, and start to shift that from the inside, you don't have to announce that to anyone. You don't have to expect anyone to do anything else. Actually, it's highly recommended that you don't. Leave people to do their own groove and focus on yourself and ask yourself, what would the heroine do? And then you do the reps of it. You work through it. Like me shifting from supporting role victim here on the island of Tobago into heroine, there's a few months in there, but it's not like I was waiting. I was working it. I'm working it. You got to get used to this new energy. You got to stumble a couple of times. You've also got to have some great leaps forward that you can celebrate. Nobody else in your life needs to be demoted for you to decide today, I'm her. I'm the heroine of my story. And just step by step, chapter by chapter, you make these changes for yourself. Stick around here at the Be Her Collective, because this is what we do inside the Be Her Collective. We support you in the how-to, because it's not like here's the 3 steps, do that, you're good to go. Because it's an energetic understanding of yourself. And you deserve it to be in your story. I mean, I will say, because I feel it necessary to say, some people in your life might be a little bit ruffled or curious when you start to change your energy. And that's their story. You get to stay in your energy and say, this is what I'm choosing for myself. You can let them in, or you can just continue to choose yourself. You deserve to be the heroine of your story, and not just deserve I win the prize. It's our birthright. And as women, we don't need to explain it to anybody. We don't need to explain it to anybody. We just are. We are her. Be her. And watch your world change. I'm really looking forward to hearing the stories that happen next for you. I want to invite this at episode 3. If you have any particular questions about shifting status, email me, Deborah at thebehercollective.com. My name is Debra. Deborah at thebehercollective.com. Feel free to email me and say, I'm curious, I have a question. I love curious questions, especially about women and stories and our magic. Or if you have a story of shifting status from supporting role, victim or sidekick into choosing yourself, stepping into heroine status, I want to hear it. And if you're interested in more of my stories, you're going to find them on Substack. If you go to Substack, you can find me at the Be Her Collective, and my publication is Deb D, Intuitive Heroine. You will find me and stories there. That's also where you're going to find some more of the teachable moments from me. But for now, I want to let you know that I'm so pleased you've been with me for the Magic 3. 3 is one of my magic favorite numbers, for the first 3 episodes. And after this beginning together, we're going to shake it up a little bit. In the next episode, episode 4, I'm going to fill in some blanks for you. I am going to give you the map of how you can be her. And then following that, you are going to meet a woman in my life who is an intuitive heroine. And when I connected to her last year, I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation for days. I cannot wait for you to meet her. That's all coming up. But for now, take a big deep breath. Know it to be true. You are the intuitive heroine. You are 1 in a million. Even if you only feel it in your little toe, you are her, which means you're the heroine of your story.